Dolly was a true American original. The singer, songwriter, businesswoman, and philanthropist passed away in a Nashville hospital surrounded by loved ones. After bravely facing a brief battle with cancer, Dolly departed her earthly life.
For decades, Dolly Parton stood as a symbol of grace, generosity, and unwavering strength, admired by millions across generations. Yet behind the spotlight and the endless applause lay a story few ever imagined. In a moment that stunned audiences and left even seasoned observers speechless, Donald Trump reportedly struggled to hold back tears as he revealed a deeply personal truth about the country music icon. So, what powerful memory could move one of America's most outspoken figures to such emotion and uncover a side of Dolly the world rarely gets to see? Trump's final call with Dolly. The news swept across the country with stunning speed, leaving supporters, colleagues, and longtime admirers struggling to understand how everything had changed so suddenly. Yet while the public was only beginning to learn the heartbreaking details, Donald Trump was already replaying a conversation that would remain fixed in his memory forever. Just hours earlier, he had spoken with Dolly Parton in what seemed like an ordinary phone call, one of countless conversations they had shared over the years. Nothing in her voice hinted that it would be their last exchange. Fresh from a demanding trip overseas, Dolly admitted she was tired from the journey, but her attention remained focused on the work she believed still needed to be done. Rather than speaking about herself, she discussed plans, responsibilities, and the causes that continued to occupy her thoughts. Trump later remembered hearing the same determination that had always defined her character. She sounded energetic, committed, and completely engaged, showing no sign that history was quietly unfolding through what appeared to be a routine conversation. The shock that followed was almost impossible to process. News soon arrived that Dolly had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving Trump stunned by how quickly events had unfolded. His reaction surprised many observers. Speaking publicly, he described her as someone who felt like part of his own family, revealing a level of personal closeness that few outside their inner circle fully understood. What made those remarks especially striking was the journey behind their relationship. They had not always shared the same views, and public disagreements often placed them on opposing sides. Yet, over time, mutual respect replaced division. Their connection grew through admiration, trust, and resilience. Trump frequently praised her loyalty, determination, and unwavering commitment, noting how she continued pushing forward when many others might have chosen to step aside. As tributes poured in from across the nation, the significance of that final phone call grew larger. It was no longer simply a private memory between two friends. Instead, it became a powerful reminder of a relationship shaped by unexpected turns and mutual respect. Looking back, the conversation seemed to capture everything that defined Dolly Parton in her final hours: dedication, resilience, and an unwavering commitment to the people and causes she cared about most. For Trump, it became a memory that transformed an ordinary moment into something unforgettable. Donald Trump's emotional words captured attention, but the story began long before those remarks. How did two figures from vastly different worlds develop a bond built on changing perceptions and growing respect? And what happened during the 2015 and 2016 presidential race that transformed their relationship forever? Stay with us as the deeper story begins to unfold. Trump and Dolly's unlikely bond. Long before Donald Trump's emotional remarks left audiences stunned, few would have imagined that one of the most surprising relationships in American public life would grow from such unlikely beginnings. Their paths were different, their worlds rarely overlapped, and many assumed they would never share the kind of mutual respect that later became impossible to ignore. Yet behind the headlines and public appearances, a story was quietly unfolding, one built not on instant friendship, but on years of changing perceptions, private conversations, and an appreciation that deepened over time. By the height of the 2015 and 2016 presidential race, Trump had become one of America's most talked about political figures. Supporters praised him, while critics questioned his leadership. Amid the controversy, few expected independent and admired Dolly Parton to earn Trump's genuine admiration. As the years passed, the public image of their connection changed dramatically. What many first viewed as an unlikely association slowly evolved into a relationship defined by trust and respect. Trump often spoke about qualities he believed were increasingly rare: an ability to connect with people from every background, a willingness to bridge differences, and a talent for bringing people together during difficult moments. Those close to the situation suggested that these qualities were exactly what he saw in Dolly. Her influence extended far beyond what most people could see. While headlines focused on political battles and public controversies, Dolly's reputation continued to grow as someone capable of earning admiration across ideological and cultural lines. Friends, colleagues, and observers frequently described her as a unifying presence whose reach stretched well beyond the entertainment world. That ability to command respect from vastly different groups made her stand out in an era often defined by division. When Trump later reflected on her impact, the emotion in his voice surprised many. Some interpreted it as the reaction of a man remembering a trusted friend. Others saw it as recognition of a remarkable figure whose influence had quietly shaped countless conversations behind the scenes. Whatever the explanation, one thing became clear: the story was never simply about public appearances. Hidden behind years of speculation was a bond that few predicted, a relationship that revealed how respect can emerge from the most unexpected places and endure long after the spotlight fades. Donald Trump often praised Dolly Parton's public achievements, but he believed her greatest impact happened far from the spotlight. What hidden qualities allowed her to touch countless lives? And how did quiet acts of kindness build a legacy that many say was even more powerful than her fame? Keep watching. Trump reveals Dolly's hidden legacy. As Donald Trump looked back on Dolly Parton's remarkable journey, his attention settled on something he felt many people had never fully understood. While the public often celebrated her music, philanthropy, and larger-than-life presence, Trump suggested that some of her greatest accomplishments took place far from television cameras, concert stages, and headline stories. In his view, the true measure of her influence was not found in public applause, but in the countless lives she quietly touched through determination, wisdom, and personal connection. For decades, Dolly Parton built a reputation that extended well beyond the entertainment industry. She possessed an unusual ability to bring people together, even when opinions differed sharply. Whether speaking with business leaders, community organizers, or public figures, she earned trust through sincerity rather than confrontation. Those who worked closely with her often described a woman who could open doors that seemed firmly closed and inspire cooperation where others saw only disagreement. Trump emphasized that her impact could not be measured simply by awards or record sales. Instead, it was reflected in the relationships she cultivated over many years. Much of her most meaningful work happened quietly, away from public attention. While crowds admired the star they saw on stage, many never witnessed the private conversations, charitable efforts, and acts of encouragement that changed lives behind the scenes. Her reach also extended far beyond her home state of Tennessee. From communities across America to projects that gained international recognition, her influence crossed cultural and geographic boundaries. By the early years of the 21st century, she had become a figure whose advice and support were sought by people from many different backgrounds. What made her story especially remarkable, Trump believed, was that she never relied on public conflict to achieve results. Instead, she used patience, experience, and genuine human connection. Long after the spotlight faded from a performance, the effects of her work continued to be felt, proving that some of the most powerful contributions are often the ones made quietly, far from public view. Dolly Parton's public image was built on generosity and success, yet Donald Trump's reflections hinted at a far deeper legacy hidden from view. What happened after one exhausting humanitarian journey And how did a seemingly ordinary moment reveal the extraordinary commitment that defined Dolly's life away from the spotlight? Let's uncover the astonishing details. Donald Trump's reflections on Dolly Parton revealed a side of her influence that many people rarely discussed. While much of the public knew her as a beloved entertainer and generous philanthropist, Trump's stories painted a picture of someone whose greatest impact often happened far from the spotlight. Rather than focusing on awards, headlines, or public appearances, he spoke about an unwavering commitment to helping others, even when no cameras were present to capture it. One memory stood out above the rest. Following a demanding journey connected to humanitarian efforts, Dolly returned home physically exhausted. Many expected her to step away for a while and recover. Instead, she immediately shifted her attention to projects that could benefit struggling communities. To those around her, it was another example of a work ethic that seemed impossible to slow down. Her determination left a lasting impression on everyone who witnessed it. As conversations about her life continued, a different understanding of her legacy began to emerge. Some believed Trump was encouraging Americans to look beyond the image they had known for decades. They saw his remarks as a reminder that true influence is not always measured by public recognition. Much of Dolly's impact appeared to come through private conversations, trusted friendships, charitable efforts, and quiet acts of support that rarely reached newspaper headlines. Across the country, debates about leadership, compassion, and public service continued to grow. In those discussions, Dolly's name was often mentioned because of her long history of charitable giving, support for education, and contributions to medical research. Her actions, especially during challenging periods such as the early years of the 21st century and beyond, became examples of how kindness could create change without demanding attention. Looking back, many concluded that Dolly Parton's most powerful achievements were not necessarily the moments that filled concert halls or dominated television screens. Instead, they were the unseen efforts that continued shaping lives in towns from Tennessee to communities across America, long after the applause had faded and the lights had gone dark. Dolly Parton's passing united voices that rarely stood on the same side, revealing a level of admiration that stretched far beyond music and celebrity. But what made her influence so extraordinary, and how did one woman earn the respect of people from every corner of public life? Let's find out. Dolly's legacy unites the nation. As news of Dolly Parton's sudden passing echoed across the nation, something remarkable unfolded. The heartfelt words shared by Donald Trump drew immediate attention. Yet the response that followed revealed an even deeper story, one that stretched far beyond music, fame, or public admiration. From every corner of public life, voices that rarely agreed on anything found themselves united by a common feeling of respect. What emerged was a portrait of a woman whose influence reached far beyond the stage. While millions knew Dolly for her unforgettable songs and larger-than-life personality, those who worked alongside her often spoke about qualities the public rarely saw. She possessed a rare ability to connect with people from completely different backgrounds, making them feel heard, valued, and understood. Throughout the years, political leaders, entertainers, business figures, and community advocates often found themselves on opposite sides of difficult debates. Yet many of them shared surprisingly similar memories of Dolly. They recalled her warmth, her sense of humor, and her willingness to listen even when opinions sharply differed. Long after conversations ended, people remembered not only what she said, but how she made them feel. Her impact could be seen in places far removed from concert halls. From Nashville to Washington, and in communities across America, her efforts touched education, literacy, disaster relief, and countless charitable causes. The launch of her Imagination Library in 1995 became one of the clearest examples of her commitment to helping others, providing books to children, and inspiring a love of reading that crossed social and political boundaries alike. Even individuals who disagreed with one another on major issues often found common ground when speaking about Dolly. They admired her determination to remain involved in difficult challenges rather than avoiding them. She never seemed interested in division, Instead, she focused on bringing people together and finding ways to make a difference. As tributes continued to pour in, one message became impossible to ignore. Dolly Parton's legacy could never be measured solely through awards, records, or accomplishments. It was also defined by the trust she earned, the kindness she shared, and the relationships she built. Long after her voice had fallen silent, those connections continued telling her story, ensuring that her influence would endure for generations to come. Dolly Parton's legacy touched every corner of America, turning personal grief into a moment of national reflection. But how did one woman's influence become so profound that her absence left millions searching for answers? And why did Donald Trump's emotional response reveal a deeper story about the void she leaves behind? Let's unravel the details. America mourns Dolly's lasting legacy. America faces an uncertain tomorrow. What first appeared to be a moment of national grief soon became something much larger, as millions struggled to imagine a future without Dolly Parton. Tributes arrived from every corner of the country, from small towns tucked deep in the mountains of Tennessee to the busy streets of Washington. Yet beneath the heartfelt messages and public displays of respect lingered a question that no one seemed able to answer. Who could ever step into the space she leaves behind? Donald Trump's emotional reaction captured the feelings of many Americans. His words reflected not only personal sorrow, but also a recognition that the nation had lost someone whose influence reached far beyond music and entertainment. In the days that followed, official gestures of remembrance appeared across the country. American flags were ordered to fly at half-staff through July 18th, transforming government buildings and public spaces into silent symbols of a shared loss. The lowered flags served as a powerful reminder that Dolly's impact had touched lives far beyond the stage. Yet, as the nation mourned, attention slowly shifted toward the lasting mark she left behind. For decades, Dolly had built something rare. She was admired by people who often disagreed on almost everything else. Her ability to connect with different generations, communities, and viewpoints made her presence feel larger than any single industry or movement. Whether through music, philanthropy, or her unwavering optimism, she created bridges where others saw divisions. That reality made conversations about the future especially difficult. Replacing a position is often possible. Replacing trust, influence, decades of relationships, is far more challenging. Many observers wondered how her absence might affect the causes she championed and the communities that depended on her support. Others argued that the greatest loss was not tied to any organization or project, but to the disappearance of a voice that could unite people during uncertain times. As memories of Dolly Parton continued to be celebrated, the national conversation evolved from mourning to reflection. Her passing was not simply the end of an extraordinary life. It sparked deeper questions about legacy, leadership, and whether anyone could quietly build the same respect, goodwill, and lasting influence that defined her remarkable journey for so many years. Donald Trump's tribute began as a reflection on loss, yet it soon revealed something far deeper. What made Dolly Parton's impact endure far beyond fame and success? And why did her unwavering commitment to helping others leave a legacy that continues to inspire long after the spotlight faded? Let's find out. Trump honors Dolly's lasting legacy. As the first shock of loss slowly settled into quiet reflection, Donald Trump found himself speaking about Dolly Parton in a way that reached far beyond grief. His words carried the weight of memory, admiration, and a growing realization that her story could never be measured by a single achievement. What emerged was not merely a farewell, but a portrait of a woman whose influence stretched far beyond the spotlight and continued touching lives long after the applause faded. Trump repeatedly described Dolly as someone who never lost faith in the value of helping others. While millions knew her as an entertainer, he suggested that her greatest contribution was the dedication she showed to people throughout her life. Fame brought recognition, yet those closest to her often pointed to a different quality: her unwavering commitment to making a difference wherever she could. Among the many moments people remembered, Trump reflected on how Dolly's actions often spoke louder than headlines. Whether standing before cheering crowds in Nashville or supporting causes that rarely attracted public attention, she remained focused on service rather than praise. To him, that consistency revealed the true measure of her character. One memory stood out above all the rest. In one of their final conversations, Dolly spoke not of achievements, but of unfinished dreams and people she still hoped to help. At the time, the exchange seemed ordinary. Later, it became deeply meaningful, carrying a significance neither of them could have imagined. As tributes poured in from across the United States, many began revisiting the milestones that defined her remarkable journey. Some focused on her extraordinary success in music. Others pointed to her generosity, which became especially visible through the years, including efforts that gained renewed attention during the early years of the 21st century. Yet Trump suggested that neither awards nor public praise fully explained her lasting impact. In the end, her legacy seemed to rest on something far more enduring: the trust, kindness, and inspiration she left behind. As memories continued to surface, one thought remained impossible to ignore. Would Dolly Parton ultimately be remembered for her celebrated career, or for the countless lives she quietly changed through compassion, dedication, and a heart devoted to serving others? So, what do you think Donald Trump discovered about Dolly Parton that moved him to tears? And why is the truth only emerging now? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe.